Welcome back to the Veteran Teacher Files. I'm your host, the Dragon Lady, and I've got a story for you that genuinely blew my mind. So, quick reminder before we get into it, like always, everything you hear on this show has the names changed, the details shuffled around, and anything too identifiable I try to smooth it over. Anonymity is the whole deal here. I protect the people in the stories. So if you're listening and thinking, wait, is that? No, don't worry about it. Because half the drama in education is that this is all universal. That's the whole point. Anyways, let's get into it. So I was talking with a coach friend of mine. And like many instructional coaches, she works one-on-one with teachers. And she was telling me about this one teacher she was working with. And this teacher has been in the profession for about 2-3 years. Nice enough person. And I don't know if a coworker whispered this idea in his ear, or if this guy just woke up one day with this brilliant idea. But here's what he decided to do. He decided to just not enter all the grades. Not like nothing at all. He had grades in the grade book. But I guess he had decided at some point that if the test had been bombed, to not put it in, or if the kid had bombed particular tests, to not put it in. Because if the grade was low, then that would trigger a conference. And he didn't want to have to do all that. So those grades just never made it in. That's it. That was the whole scheme. Selective blanks, strategically placed right where a bad grade should have been. A bad grade that should have triggered a conference. But instead, no failures, no accountability meetings, and no uncomfortable conversations. Just a grade book that's mostly full, except for the handful of, cells that happen to be doing all the damage. And a teacher who has apparently transcended the entire system with some very targeted omissions. This is a problem, y'all. The kids probably don't recognize that they're failing. This is a 6th grade teacher, so the kids are kind of at that age where they're probably like, yeah, I don't get it, but I don't know what to do about it. The parents, I don't know if the parents are picking up on this. The admins, hello. I was floored. I actually said out loud, wait, go back? Because I needed her to repeat that to make sure I'd heard it right. And listen, I get it. On some level, conferences are rough. Nobody wants to sit across from a parent and have to explain to them that their kid is failing. But the solution is not to make the problem invisible. That's not a loophole. That's just math avoidance with extra steps. And also, this doesn't actually solve anything. It just delays it. At some point, those grades have to go in, don't they? At some point, the report card has to say something. Isn't anyone checking this? He didn't dodge a conference. He just pushed it on to the future person. Somebody else. Now that next person's going to get this grade that says, C-, where this kid's actually probably failing, and the teacher's not going to know what to do. And I keep trying to picture the moment this idea occurred to him. Was it like 4:45 p.m. on a Tuesday? He was just like staring at his grade book and just kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to just do this my way. I think I just found a glitch in the matrix. But here's where it gets even better. Because my friend, the coach, she started paying closer attention to him. And her honest read was, he's kind of a weak teacher. Which, fine, that's okay. I mean, he's new. That's why she's working with him. So, totally okay. That tracks. But he's also really charming and likable. And like a lot of young teachers, he needs the money. So that same person also volunteers to be the intervention teacher for the math program. The one program specifically for the kids who are already behind because of him. They need the extra help because of him. And you could hear it in her voice when she was telling me this. She wasn't just worried about it like his classroom management, which is, something a lot of new teachers struggle with. She was doing the math, no pun intended, on what this actually means for these kids long term. Because think about the pipeline here. A kid has a strong 4th grade teacher, 5th grade teacher, gets a nice little foundation there. Then moves up to a weak 6th grade teacher. And they're already a little shaky going into 7th grade where they're supposed to be catching up. Except the person running the catch up is the same guy who doesn't want to deal with the grades. Then what? Then they land in high school on a foundation that was never really built. And that's the part that stops being funny for a second. Like, the grade book's a punchline, but the kids stacking up behind it are not. And my friend was genuinely frustrated when she's telling me this because she's smart and she has common sense, which is not actually that common. And one of the things that frustrated her the most was that nobody follows up. He did this whole grade book thing, and as far as she could tell, nobody checked. Nobody circled back. You can apparently, just do that. And the system doesn't notice. Nobody notices until something happens, until somebody starts paying attention, which most people aren't. And then there's the intervention piece, which is like really a bigger point. Because intervention shouldn't just be a, hey, who wants to get paid? Who's just showing up? Who signed up? If you're actually being strategic, you want it to be worth the kids' time. You have to put in your best teachers in those seats, not just whoever raised their hand because they needed an extra paycheck. You can't just have an open sign up for everybody and call it a strategy. Anyways, if you're a young teacher listening to this, I promise you, the grades still count even if you don't type them in. That's not how any of this works. But also weirdly, like, respect for the confidence. All right, but here's the thing about my friend. Once one thing is off, she started looking around because usually if one thing's off, something else is off too. And sure enough, sleuthing continues. There was another teacher she was working with, and this woman looks deceptively young. Like, you'd guess she was in her 20s until you get close enough and it's like, oh, because she's actually in her mid-30s. Coming up on 40. And that got my friend curious. Like, okay, wait a minute. You're in your mid-30s and you're a new teacher? What were you doing since college? Turns out, not teaching. Not using the degree at all. So my friend does a little more digging and finds out this woman does technically have a math degree, but only because she just had a ton of random credits scattered everywhere, and math happened to be the pile that was the tallest. Like, she didn't set out to be a math major. She just sort of accumulated her way into it. So she gets a math degree, and then she sits on it for about 10 years, doing something completely unrelated. And then one day decides, yeah, you know what? I think I'll be a teacher now. And then doesn't ease into it. Nah, she just jumps with both feet right into high school curriculum, high school math. And this is where my friend's frustration really hit the ceiling. Because guess who they asked to put together the intervention program? Yeah, she's sitting there, like, just about to pull her hair out. Just, like, asking, who am I supposed to pick for this? The guy who's lying about his grades and giving out, like, a full lazy vibes? Or the woman who doesn't actually know how to teach math, but thinks she does? And those were her options. That was the bench she had to pick from. And honestly, that's the story. That's education sometimes. You got real kids who need real help, and the staffing decision comes down to picking the lesser of two question marks. Okay, so that's the episode. That's all I got for today. Here's my question for you, and I actually want to hear this one, so drop it in the comments. Have you ever been on either side of this? This is anonymous, so have you ever been the teacher who took a shortcut because you were drowning? I mean, let me think back. Maybe I have, and I don't know. I don't think I have, though. Or were you someone who had to watch someone else do it and felt just completely powerless to stop it? Send me your stories. I read every single comment. And if this is your weekly therapy session like it is for me, do me a favor. Subscribe, like it, share it with a friend or a teacher who's going to text you with, wait, what? The second they hear this one. That's how this show grows. That's how more of us feel a little less alone in this profession. Anyways, until next time, this has been the Dragon Lady, and this has been the Veteran Teacher Files. Stay anonymous, stay honest, and I'll see you next time.